Have you ever had your most exciting news turn into a nightmare? Just when I thought my career was finally taking off, my relationship came crashing down. My name is Lisa, and I'm a 28-year-old woman working in the marketing industry. For the past 3 years, I've been in what I thought was a stable and loving relationship with my boyfriend, Alex. We met through mutual friends, and it seemed like a perfect match from the start. We shared similar interests, supported each other's careers, and even talked about a future together. I've always been ambitious, aiming to climb the corporate ladder, and Alex seemed to admire my drive. He's an engineer, and although his job can be demanding, we always manage to find time for each other. Recently, I was offered a promotion at work, a big step up to a management position that I've been working tirelessly toward. It was an opportunity that came with more responsibilities and a significant pay raise. Initially, I was over the moon. I couldn't wait to share the news with Alex, expecting him to be as thrilled as I was. However, his reaction was anything but supportive. Instead of celebrating with me, he seemed distant, even resentful. At first, I brushed it off as stress from his own work, but as days passed, the tension only grew. Alex became more withdrawn, and our conversations turned into arguments over petty things. It was as if my success was a silent wedge being driven between us. I couldn't understand how something so positive could lead to such negativity. My excitement was clouded by confusion and anxiety, leaving me to question what had gone wrong in our seemingly solid relationship. As weeks turned into a month, the distance between Alex and me only widened. Our interactions, once filled with warmth and mutual encouragement, were now laced with a palpable tension. Each conversation seemed to circle back to my promotion in ways I hadn't anticipated. I found myself constantly defending my ambition and the new demands of my job, which Alex seemed to perceive as a threat to our relationship. The first major curveball came when I discovered that Alex had been confiding in his best friend about our situation. Normally, I wouldn't have minded him seeking advice, but it hurt to learn through a mutual acquaintance that Alex had expressed doubts about our future together. He had never mentioned these concerns to me directly, and it felt like a breach of trust. I confronted him, hoping to clear the air and understand where his hesitations were coming from. Instead of a constructive conversation, the confrontation spiraled into a heated argument. Alex admitted he felt overshadowed by my career success, fearing that he might never measure up. It was a startling revelation, one that left me feeling both angry and helpless. I had never intended for my achievements to be a point of contention. In fact, I wanted nothing more than to share them with him. Yet, here we were, with my success seemingly casting a shadow over our relationship. To make matters worse, my increased workload required more travel and late nights at the office, further straining our time together. Each missed dinner and canceled weekend plan added fuel to the growing fire of resentment between us. I began to notice changes in Alex's behavior, subtle yet significant. He stopped asking about my day, and our conversations became superficial. The emotional connection we once shared seemed to be slipping away, replaced by an invisible barrier that neither of us knew how to dismantle. As the pressure mounted, I found myself wrestling with a mix of guilt and frustration. Guilt for unintentionally hurting someone I cared deeply about, and frustration at feeling like I was being forced to choose between my career and my relationship. The stress was becoming unbearable, manifesting in restless nights and an ever-present knot in my stomach. I tried to bridge the gap by planning a weekend getaway, hoping a change of scenery might help us reconnect. But even then, the underlying tension accompanied us, turning what should have been a relaxing escape into another reminder of the chasm growing between us. It became increasingly clear that we were standing on shaky ground, and I was terrified of what might happen if we couldn't find a way back to each other. Determined not to let our relationship unravel, I took proactive steps to address the growing rift between Alex and me. My first approach was to initiate more open and honest communication. I suggested that we set aside time each week to sit down and talk about our feelings, away from the distractions of work and daily routines. I hoped that these sessions would provide a safe space for Alex to express his concerns, and for me to reassure him of my commitment to both our relationship and my career. Initially, these talks seemed promising. Alex opened up about feeling insecure and worried that my career might outpace his. I listened intently, assuring him that my success didn't diminish his own achievements. We even discussed practical ways to balance our schedules better. like setting specific nights for date nights or planning short getaways to keep our bond strong. Seeking external advice, I reached out to my sister, who had navigated similar challenges in her own marriage. She suggested couples therapy, believing that an impartial third party could help us communicate more effectively. I proposed this idea to Alex, hoping it might be the breakthrough we needed. However, just as I felt we were making progress, the second curveball hit. Alex received an unexpected job offer in another city, an exciting opportunity, but one that would require him to move. While it was flattering for him, it threw our already delicate situation into further chaos. We were now faced with the daunting possibility of a long-distance relationship, or worse, an ultimatum between staying together or pursuing our separate career paths. This new development reignited the unresolved tensions between us. Instead of viewing the job offer as a potential positive change, Alex seemed to interpret it as validation of his fears, that our careers were pulling us in opposite directions. Despite my assurances that we could find a way to make it work, he remained skeptical, questioning whether maintaining our relationship was feasible under these new circumstances. My efforts to cope with this twist felt like running on a treadmill. I was exerting energy but making little progress. Each attempt to compromise or find common ground was met with resistance or indifference from Alex. It was as if we were both stuck, unable to move forward or even revert to the comfort of our past dynamic. With every effort that seemed to falter, the weight of uncertainty grew heavier, leaving me anxious about what lay ahead for us. As the situation with Alex continued to spiral, I found myself caught in a whirlwind of emotions that I couldn't easily shake off. At work, I tried to maintain a facade of normalcy, but inside, I was constantly distracted by the turmoil at home. The promotion that once filled me with pride now felt bittersweet, overshadowed by the strain it placed on my personal life. Colleagues began to notice my decreased enthusiasm, and while they congratulated me on my achievements, I couldn't help but feel like an imposter, smiling through the growing ache in my heart. Socially, I became more withdrawn, reluctant to share the ongoing drama with friends who had always viewed Alex and me as the perfect couple. I missed gatherings, avoiding questions about our relationship that I wasn't ready to answer. It felt as though my world was shrinking, leaving me in isolation as I grappled with the uncertainty of what the future held. My evenings, once filled with laughter and companionship, were now marked by solitude and introspection. Mentally, the stress was unrelenting. I found myself overthinking every conversation and decision, replaying arguments in my head and wondering if I could have approached things differently. This constant mental replay left me exhausted, with sleep becoming a rare commodity. When I did manage to rest, my dreams were often plagued with anxiety, waking up with a tightness in my chest that lingered throughout the day. The personal impact of this crisis was profound. I started questioning my priorities, feeling torn between the ambition that had driven me for so long and the love that seemed to be slipping away. Doubt crept in, making me second-guess whether I was selfish for wanting both a thriving career and a happy relationship. The internal conflict was agonizing, as I yearned for the days when everything felt simpler and the path ahead was clear. Every day, I battled a sense of hopelessness, worried that no amount of effort could restore what Alex and I had lost. It was a struggle to maintain optimism, and as I reflected on our past, I feared that the very foundation of our relationship had been irreparably damaged. This emotional weight was daunting, and I couldn't help but wonder if I was clinging to something that was already gone, or if there was still a chance to rebuild, stronger than before. After countless attempts to mend the cracks in our relationship, I found myself standing at a crossroads, where the only options seemed to involve drastic change. It was a reality I had desperately tried to avoid, but as the situation with Alex grew increasingly untenable, I began to entertain thoughts I had previously pushed aside. Breaking up with Alex was a thought that now loomed large in my mind. The idea of ending a 3-year relationship was terrifying, but the constant emotional turmoil was taking its toll. I couldn't shake the fear of what life without him might look like, yet the prospect of continuing in a relationship fraught with unresolved tension seemed equally daunting. What if this break could lead to something better for both of us? Or what if it was a mistake I couldn't take back? The possibility of moving with Alex, should he accept the job offer, was another drastic measure on the table. But this decision was fraught with uncertainty. Could I uproot my career, the very thing that had sparked this conflict, and start anew in a different city? The risk of resentment weighed heavily on my mind, as did the fear of compromising my ambitions for the sake of our relationship. Social stigma and the fear of judgment from friends and family added another layer of complexity. I dreaded the prospect of explaining a breakup to those who had always seen Alex and me as inseparable. I worried about being labeled as someone who chose career over love, or as someone who couldn't make a relationship work. In this mire of uncertainty, I felt torn between the desire to take decisive action and the fear of the unknown that came with such drastic measures. Each option seemed fraught with potential for regret, and I questioned whether I was prepared to face the long-term consequences of my decision. As I stood on the precipice of change, I knew that whatever choice I made would shape my future in ways I couldn't yet fully comprehend. As I stand on the brink of making one of the most significant decisions of my life, I'm overwhelmed by a mix of fear, sadness, and a sliver of hope. The journey from excitement over my promotion to the uncertainty I now face has been nothing short of tumultuous. I've tried everything within my power to reconcile my professional ambitions with my personal life, but despite my efforts, the distance between Alex and me seems insurmountable. I'm reaching out to this community because I feel lost and in need of guidance. Have any of you faced a similar dilemma where your career seemed to be at odds with your relationship? How did you navigate such a crossroads? And what advice would you offer to someone in my shoes? Is it possible to strike a balance between love and ambition, or does one inevitably have to take precedence? I'm open to any insights or experiences you might be willing to share, hoping they might shed light on a path I haven't yet considered. While part of me is simply venting, needing to voice these thoughts and fears, another part clings to the possibility that someone might offer a perspective that could lead to resolution. Thank you for taking the time to read my story. Your advice or even just your empathy could make a significant difference in helping me navigate this challenging chapter of my life. Whatever the outcome, I hope to emerge with a clearer sense of direction and peace with the choices I ultimately make.